Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is John Campea, and this is part 2 of our Falcon and Winter Soldier Episode 5 open spoiler discussion. Now, of course, on Friday, this past Friday, we did part 1 of our open spoiler discussion of Falcon and Winter Soldier Episode 5, but we still had a bunch of questions to go by the time we ended. We went like 2.5 hours, so we still have a bunch to get caught up, and that's what we're going to do right now. We're going to get through all the rest of the questions and comments and thoughts and theories and observations that you guys made during that live stream, and now we're going to get to the rest of them right now. So again, just a little bit of a warning, in case the title didn't make it obvious, this is an open spoiler discussion. So if you by any chance haven't seen Falcon and Winter Soldier Season 1, Episode 5 yet, you may want to navigate away from here and come back and see this video after you've done that. There we go. Gave you a little bit of warning. So now let's jump into it. We're going to start getting caught up here with a question from Raymond Verratta, or Raymond 2000, I should say, who writes, as a black man in America, especially right now, the scene with Isaiah and Sam was a tearjerker and a trigger. Listen, I've heard that from a lot of people lately. Now, look, obviously, just as you can never fully grasp and understand my experience as, the type of person I am with my background that I have, I can never fully, truly understand and grasp your experience either. But I've been hearing from a lot of people about the experience that whole Sam and Isaiah thing gave. And I think that's great that Marvel is being willing to navigate that kind of terrain. All right, next up, we've got Rapier Copeland, who writes and sends in like $100 super chat. Thank you, Rapier. Appreciate that very much, man, for supporting our channel on that level. Anyway, as a black man, I teared up watching Sam and Isaiah's scene. Growing up loving Marvel, I'm deeply proud of the MCU's storytelling. They blend the spectacle of comics into the human experience more accurately than anything I've seen. They don't run from it. I love and respect that. And that is, first of all, Rapier, I'm glad you had that experience with it. And that is one of the signs of the maturation of the whole comic book genre. Like, as you look at the evolution of the genre, you see them getting into deeper and deeper things. Like, even when you go to something like Logan, which examines certain elements that maybe most comic book movies won't examine. And definitely genre blending. Now we're seeing a lot more genre blending in the comic book genre than we ever have before. And yeah, one of the things that became very clear with Falcon and Winter Soldier was that they weren't going to shy away from issues like this. The more any genre can tie into the actual human experience, even if it's in the fantastical, like a Star Wars or Star Trek or comic book movie or TV show or whatever, you give yourself the opportunity to get an extra layer of depth that otherwise would be absent. And it's been really neat, whether it's, the scene with the cops or whatever, it's been really neat to see that Marvel isn't shying away from incorporating, real life kind of stuff into the spectacular and fantastical at the same time, because it gives a different layer of depth to it. And I think they've handled it really great, at least from my limited perspective they have. And it's really nice hearing from people like yourself, who's been able to have that type of experience with it. And to me, that just kind of verifies that Marvel is kind of on the right path, that the whole genre, whether it's DC, Marvel, whatever, you see that the whole maturation of the genre is growing in a good direction, and that's always good to see. Anyway, man, once again, thanks for sharing your thoughts on that. I appreciate it, and thank you again for supporting our channel on that level, man. It's much appreciated. All right, next up, we've got Brent Pham, who writes, is there a legitimate argument to be made that Nico killed Lamar? Yes, in a way, from a certain point of view. Remember, in law, if you're part of a gang that robs a bank and one of your gang members kills a guard, you are responsible for that if you're a part of it. I mean, I'm not an expert on American criminal law or anything, but to a degree, you are responsible for that. So you see, in the old Ben Kenobi, what John Walker said is true from a certain point of view. When he said Nico killed Lamar, he is one of the guys kind of responsible for it. Being one of the flag smashers, being there, being a part of that conflict, he's kind of by extension responsible for it, even though you and I know he wasn't literally the guy who did it. All right, next up, we got Dimsum05, who writes, bummed we didn't get any dialogue-free visuals over Isaiah's stories. Would have made it more engrossing and less explain-o-vision. Still great scene. I disagree, Dimsum. Actually, I was talking to Ann about that. I actually think it's better that they didn't do the old trope of showing visuals of, a younger Isaiah, sneaking off to save his brethren. We got to hear, I think it was important that we got to experience Isaiah's story the exact same way that Sam experienced Isaiah's story. Sam was just sitting in a living room with Isaiah, listening to Isaiah with his emotion and his experience and his voice telling that story. And I think it was actually effective and important that we didn't go outside of Sam's experience, but rather we experienced that story the same way Sam experienced it. Now, that's not true for every single case, but I thought in this particular scene, I gotta say, I disagree with you, buddy. I actually think it was important that they not show a bunch of visuals. It just made it feel, I don't know, it felt more raw that way to me. Like, again, experiencing it the exact same way that Sam was experiencing it. But I see what you're saying. I do. All right, next up, we got Kyan Shingler, who writes, what an episode, and wow, the fight scene was incredible. The fight scene was incredible at the beginning. However, what stood out more was how it covers themes in many themes of gray. Yeah, you probably meant many shades of gray. It adds depth to all the characters and their storylines. That, Kian, is one of the things that has really stood out to me about this show in particular. Very, very, very little is black and white. Like the history of the Shield. It isn't as pure as the newly fallen snow as everybody would like to think. You know, we all know that Sam has issues and Bucky has some serious issues. Even John Walker, parts of John Walker's motivations come from a good place. When what he wanted to do and what he wanted to be. Even Carly, right? We see that like she started this whole thing from a desire to do something just and something right. And it's devolved in things. And this whole show is about 50 Shades of Grey. Hell, we don't even know where Sharon Carter stands on things. But we understand that 95% of life is in the gray. And I like the fact that they're incorporating that into the show. And I really like the way they've been doing that. All right, next up, we got Delusional Patriots fan who writes, one of two. Is Sharon a member? Listen, what Sharon is right now is up to anybody's guess. Is Sharon a member of the LAF, the organization that profited post-snap from episode 1 that Sam stops? Sharon, episode 5, references that she'll pay Batroc double this time. Batroc goes to help the Smashers stop the GRC vote. It would hurt the LAF, who rely on the chaos to make money. Okay, so that whole last part of that episode when I realized Sharon was on the phone with George St. Pierre with Batroc the Leaper, I'm like, wait a minute, what? What is she doing? Like, a lot of us think there is a possibility she may be the power broker, she may be, she may not be. Helping Carly is a really solid piece of evidence she's not the power broker. But maybe she's actually sent in Batroc to double cross her and capture or kill her, which would really speak to maybe she is the power broker. But who knows? Like, sending Batroc in there when Batroc just wants to kill Falcon and she's buddies with Falcon, she knows Falcon's going to show up. She's got to know that. So, power broker, LAF, GRC, her own independent thing, Hydra, who knows? But honestly, whereas I've never really cared all that much in this series about where does Sharon land on things, it's become like maybe the number one question to me. It's like, what the hell is Sharon's role in all of this? And I am looking forward to finding that out in the next episode, brother. All right, next up, Timothy Platt writes, I killed him because I had to. He killed Lamar. I don't think he was trying to lie in that scenario. He knows Bucky and Sam saw what happened. I think in his mind, all the Flag Smashers are responsible, and he won't rest until they're all dead. I got some real Punisher-esque vibes from him. I don't disagree. Like, I think in Walker's mind, and like we said earlier in this episode, to a degree, he's not completely wrong. Nico was as responsible for Lamar's death as Carly was. Now, again, I think also within John Walker, there's a little self-justifying for doing what he did. But again, if that's how he's looking at it, it's not like he's completely out in left field. You know, for all he knows, Nico is the one who pressed the detonation button that blew up the building with people tied up inside. I mean, look, all he knows is it's the Flag Smashers, and he is a Flag Smasher. So I agree with you, Timothy. I think your observation is accurate. All right, next up. Reggie Phoenix writes, I love that throughout the show they've been seeding the new Wakandan / vibranium suit for Sam. They mentioned several times that the government has tracked him through Red Wing. Now he can operate offline like he used to. Yeah, well, Red Wing, I don't know if he never did fix Red Wing. So I don't know if Red Wing was part of it, but yes, they obviously were building it up to the reveal of the new Wakandan created suit for Sam. I have a feeling, I think we all do, that it's going to be very Captain America inspired colors. I still don't know whether Sam takes on the moniker of Captain America. I certainly hope he does not, because, I don't think Bucky, Sam, anybody, John Walker, anybody should bear the moniker of Captain America. I think that should be for Steve Rogers and Steve Rogers only. But episode 5 made me at least a little more at peace with the notion that they're going to make Sam the new Captain America. Again, I still don't like the idea, but I've believed all along that is what they're going to do. And episode 5 made me feel a little bit better about it. At any rate, whether he calls himself Captain America or something else altogether, I don't know. But I am dying to see that outfit, Reggie. I'm dying to see that outfit. All right, next up, we got Timothy Platt writes, what are your thoughts on how Bucky gave the shield to Sam? Although, like the way he threw it down at him, I can't tell if it was more of a now do it right this time or a this is on you kind of moment. I think it was a little bit of both. The way he kind of like dropped it at Sam and kind of looked at him, I think he was saying several things. One was, we had to go through all this because you gave this shield up in the first place. And he's not wrong. He's not wrong. And also kind of, here, don't mess it up this time. I think that was very much a part. So Timothy, I think your two different hypotheses are both completely accurate. I think it was both and not either or. So I think you're right on both counts, to be honest with you. All right, next up, Damon Morton writes, no mutants far off, but still world. No mutants far off still, but world setting up with groups of people getting repressed and maybe fear super-powered people. Themes key to mutant storylines. Also, Countessa being Maria Hill to Ross. Maybe yes, maybe no. I still have a hard time that they're going to follow through on that storyline the way they did in the comics, just because in the MCU, Ross, I think Ross has definitively been represented as a good guy, a dick, but a good guy. But they may very well, but again, remember the whole concept of Falcon and Winter Soldier was kind of drafted out before Kevin Feige even knew they were getting the X-Men. So I don't know that it's purposefully setting that up. Doesn't mean they can't be taken advantage of later, because they may, but I don't think it's part and parcel. I don't think one was connected to the other, but we'll find out, Damon. We'll find out. Next up, the Sock writes, when they catch the shield, doesn't that hurt the shit out of their hands? And how do they catch with their arm through the strap? That shouldn't be possible when it comes back at that speed. Comic book movies. Yeah, I was saying to my buddy Ryan, who was watching the episode with me, so they throw the shield and it buries itself into that mighty oak tree, like, and cuts right into it. But then two ridiculous things. One, they duct tape on some padding. Guess what? If that shield is cutting through a tree, it's going to rip through that padding 10 times easier. But, the padding makes the shield bounce. It's like, okay, whatever. Comic book movie. But yes, if that shield is tearing into a tree, then you catching it with your hands, especially if you're not a super soldier, that thing's just going to slice your hands off, man. But again, suspension of disbelief around the shield. There is no way that shield should work that it works. Without it being magical or some piece of technology, there is no way the shield should work the way it does. But it's the shield, and we just kind of accept that that's the way it works. All right, next up, we got, where are we at here? We are at Life Entertainment Rights. So is Sam's new suit a combination of Falcon and Cap, and Sharon put a hit on him? Well, again, we don't know what's going on in Sharon's mind. We just don't know. She could be setting up a double cross. Maybe Batroc is working against the Flag Smash. I mean, again, there's just so many questions we don't know. And my theory, right, Life Entertainment, is that yes, but it's just a guess. I don't know. My guess is exactly what you just said. I think it's going to be a combination of a Captain America look with the functionality of a Falcon suit. Whether he calls himself Captain America or something else, we'll find out. A-Rod 2006 writes, why would Sharon want Batroc to kill Sam? I thought they were on the same side. Again, that's why that ending confused me so much. But again, we don't know what's actually going on. Maybe it's a double cross. Maybe it's something else. Maybe Sharon, over the last couple of years, has just gone way off base. And maybe she has literally become pure villain. I mean, all it takes is one bad day. If she feels betrayed by her, we've seen many villains in many movies where the origin of them becoming villains is based off what they perceive as a great betrayal. And if she sees herself as having been big betrayed, maybe, but again, maybe she's actually, there's a little counter, subterfuge going on. Again, we don't know. We'll have to wait and find out. All right. Ryan Toll writes, it's going to take more than a training montage and a shield to beat up George St. Pierre. True. I think in real life, GSP is more worthy of a shield than MCU Sam, hashtag Captain Canada. Well, I know. I've had the exact same thoughts. Like, okay, great. Sam is doing some, parkour leaping and he's doing push-ups. Great. You're not magically now going to be able to take on George St. Pierre. Now, of course, remember, Sam is going to have the advantage of whatever this new Wakandan suit is. Sam's not just walking into a ring with Batroc. They're both wearing their fighter shorts and gloves, and that's it. He's going to walk in with the advantage, too, of the new suit. And that makes it much more interesting and much more believable. So we'll see where they go with that. All right, Stubby One Kenobi writes, JLG is, Julie Louis-Dreyfus is Madam Hydra. Apparently. Now, whether they call her Madam Hydra in this or not, I have a feeling they won't call her Madam Hydra. I don't think they're going to call her Madam Hydra in the MCU. But yeah, that's the character, yes. Torres, the new Falcon? Possibly. I still think he dies in the finale. I still think Torres dies in the finale. Again, I have nothing to back that up with, pure speculation. Sam gets vibranium wing suit. That's what I think they're doing. Sharon broke Batroc out. Apparently, Zemo to Raph to join the Thunderbolts. Possibly. Who is Power Broker? Again, so many questions still left to be addressed going into this finale. And I love it. I love it. Now, like I said, I've said this a few times, but I haven't loved Falcon and Winter Soldier up to the end of episode 3. I've enjoyed it. I've liked it. And there have certainly been some fantastic moments. But I haven't been like all in, completely enthralled with it like I was with WandaVision. Till episode 5. Until episode 4. Episode 4 flipped the script on that, and I just became all in on it. I don't think episode 5 was as good as 4, but I thought it was fantastic. And I am really on board now, and I am salivating for this last episode. Still sucks that we only get 6 episodes. I really hope they fix that moving forward. Anyway, next up. Casey McNatt writes, gotta love it when the cameo is nobody we expect. I feel we still continue to build ourselves up when we hear there might be a big cameo announced. Oh, absolutely. But you know what? I think it hasn't been as built up as it was, say, back in WandaVision. Right? It's not as out of control built up as it was in WandaVision. So I think it's getting a little bit better, but I did love it. I mean, when she came out of nowhere, I'm like, how the hell did they keep this secret? I really did like that cameo. All right. Zachary Melvin writes, I feel that the Senator is one of the true bad guys in the show. I don't think he is. He uses the system to get what he wants. I didn't get that feeling. I think he is a representation of a part of what is wrong with the system, but I don't think he is a villain per se. Could be wrong. We could get to the end of that episode and find out like he leans over to somebody and says, "Hail Hydra," for all we know. I mean, I don't know. You may be right. I'm not feeling it right now, but we'll see what happens in episode 6, Zachary. All right, Raymond Verratta writes, I know who the Fantastic Four are. Jerry, Elaine, Kramer, and George Costanza. Gotta love Costanza. There's got to be, if not in Falcon and Winter Soldier, then maybe in Black Widow or in something else MCU related, Raymond, there needs to be a Seinfeld reference. I don't know where the right place to put it is. I don't know when the right timing of it would be, but I think a well-timed, well-placed Seinfeld reference would be absolutely choice. All right. Murray Reich writes, one of two. I noticed something. Remember in episode 8 in WandaVision, we had a mid-credit scene where Hayward / Sword were busy building something. Well, in episode 5 of this show, by the mid-credit scene, you see Walker building something. It's ironic because in both situations, they think they are doing the right thing to save people. Coincidence? No, listen, this goes back to what, and I know you've mentioned this before too, Murray. This goes back to what we've been talking about, how it's not a black and white world. That the MCU is evolving from, look, these are clearly the heroes, those are clearly the villains, period, end of sentence, nothing to be discussed. And we are now kind of living in that 50 Shades of Grey. And you're right, there is probably a part, look, we know Walker is off the base. We totally know he's off the base now. But in his mind, he's trying to do what's right. He's doing what he believes is right. And if nobody else has the willpower to do what's needed to do, I'm going to build my own shield. I think he's in for a rude awakening when he tries to block something with that shield and it doesn't work so well as the other shield. But, yeah. I mean, I think that's a theme, that sometimes the people who are set up as antagonists, and that's how I see John Walker. I don't see Walker so much as a villain as he is an antagonist. And the two are not equal. Antagonist does not automatically mean villain, the way we understand villain, right? And right now I kind of see John Walker as an antagonist. Kind of the same way that I saw Hayward. I don't see Hayward as a villain. I saw him as an antagonist. So it is kind of interesting, although they are very different things. One is a multi-billion-dollar piece of machinery with the government, and the other guy's sitting alone in a shop hammering out some metal. But thematically, I see what you're doing there. All right, next up. Mr. Hank Dunn writes, you're helping a domestic terrorist, Elaine. Well, she doesn't see it that way. And by the way, John Walker isn't a domestic terrorist. Like by definition, look up the definition of what a domestic terrorist is. That's not John Walker. But yes, she's kind of on the wrong side here. All right, next up. Murray Reich also writes, it's also ironic that in both series, we will have in the finale a main character costume reveal. Well, that's true. Yeah, because we got our first look at Wanda. I mean, in her true Scarlet Witch outfit, which is much better than the comic book version. In that true Scarlet Witch outfit. And we're going to get our first new look at Sam in the Wakandan vibranium outfit. I really do wish that the ending of last episode was opening the case and him at least holding it up for a second. But I guess we're going to get that reveal in action in the next episode. All right. Phil Kelly writes, random wacky theory for episode 6. Okay. Joaquin Torres turns out not only to be the new Falcon, but also to be Steve's grandson. I've heard several people espousing that theory. That he could somehow be related to Steve Rogers, maybe a grandson or something like that. I still think he's gonna die. I think he is a Star Trek red shirt. Now, I'm not willing to put money on that. It's not like I wholeheartedly believe that, but I think he could very well be the new Falcon. Very, very well be the new Falcon, although there's never been any proof or evidence that he even knows how to operate one of those suits, but whatever. But I still think he's a Star Trek red shirt, and I think he's a character that can die that could deeply affect Sam and his mentality. So I don't know. We'll see where they go with that. All right, next up. That was Phil Kelly. Next up, Cody writes, wow, John, pretty big miss on your part to not have included Jerry Seinfeld on your list of possible power brokers. You must feel really silly now. I know, right? I know. It's totally Jerry. It's totally Jerry. What's the deal with flags? Let's smash him. I do terrible Jerry Seinfeld. Yes, Cody, I totally missed that one. How could I possibly? And I'm going to feel really silly when the power broker reveal happens on Thursday night or Friday morning for many people, and we find out it's actually Jerry Seinfeld. All right. Iconic Reactions writes, hey, John, been a minute since my last chat with you, so I don't know about anyone else, but I effing loved this episode. Not just action, but the scenes overall. I completely agree. Like, yeah, the action is great, but this goes back to something I've been saying for a really long time. And it kind of bore out with the Transformers movies. Action without narrative purpose is just visual noise. It's just visual noise. Why are these guys fighting each other? I don't know, but look how cool the fight is. Like, action without narrative purpose is just visual noise. That's why, most of the Transformers movies have loads of action, but they don't feel thrilling or exciting because there's no narrative purpose to any of it, right? When that fight happens in the first scene of episode 5 between Sam Bucky and John Walker, like it's all fused and fueled by narrative. It is soaked in story. Like, everything that's happening is a natural part of the narrative progression of what's going on, which makes it rich. It's not just cool to look at. It makes it rich. And that's something that this entire series has been. It's tried to go deeper. It's something that WandaVision did particularly well with the whole, ideology of dealing with grief and pain and what it can do and all that kind of stuff. And seeing them try to go on deeper levels as well in Falcon and Winter Soldier has not only been satisfying in and of itself, but it's made the great high-octane action all the more meaningful because the action itself is steeped in story, and that's why it's worked so well for me. Anyway, all right, where are we at now? We are at Mario Man. And Mario Man writes, Wyatt Russell was outstanding in this episode. I think he's been outstanding playing this character overall. You could really see his descent into his mental illness. You could really feel him losing it. I agree. And it's not just feeling him losing it. You feel his, what's the word I'm looking for? His disillusionment. Like, even as he's standing there at his trial, like, he is perplexed that they don't see things his way. He feels disillusioned. He feels betrayed. And you see him descending, still trying to hold on to this idea that he's the good guy while seeing everything else fall apart. He has been exceptional in this series, Mario. He's been absolutely exceptional. Leo Liang writes, lost my mind when Julie Louis-Dreyfus showed up. So did I. At first, I still don't know how they kept that a secret. I love seeing her pop up. All right, Tyler Frost writes, I love where the story is going, but I found the one stunt shot of Sam flipping in the montage a little shocking. Just me? Obviously a different person. Usually Marvel has better editing with stunts. I'll tell you what, I found the whole thing about why is he doing parkour flips in the middle of the dirt road? No idea. How's this going to help him be Captain America? Or, a different character carrying on the Captain America legacy? I don't know. I'll tell you what, though. I thought the editing was quite good. Because I remember specifically watching a case. Like, obviously, this isn't, at least to the best of my knowledge, this isn't Anthony Mackie doing all the flips. And so I was looking very closely. And I'll tell you what, I thought they did a pretty good job of making it look pretty legit. You saw it differently, Tyler. I respect that, but I'd be lying to you if I didn't tell you I thought it was actually pretty impressive, but that's just me. All right. Dragon 10 writes, Sam's training montage made me want to hit the gym. It's a good training montage. Again, I'm not sure why he's doing all the parkour, but it's a good training montage. I did a little bit of Rocky in there too as he's jogging and his little nephews start running behind him. A little bit of Rocky in there. I kind of dug that. All right, next up. Derek Lugo writes, as a veteran, I love the nuance they gave to Walker, and having him tell those senators, you made me, that was a great line. Gave me chills. I've known so many vets like Walker while serving. This show is so good. Yeah, again, that whole moment in there, although I did find it weird that they weren't giving him a chance to speak. I mean, at what kind of a hearing or trial of any kind is the accused not allowed to speak? That seemed a little bit weird to me, but you're absolutely right about that, Derek. It really, you could feel that. Again, the disillusionment, all that kind of stuff. And not only the disillusionment, but again, 50 Shades of Grey. Walker wasn't wrong saying what he's saying. You made me a certain way. And when I carried out doing exactly what you trained me to do, now you condemn me for it. Like, so there's truth. Again, it's that 50 Shades of Grey that we live in. Anyway, good observation there, Derek. Next up, Z Benally writes, sad Isaiah is arrested for 30 years, tortured and imprisoned, doing the same thing Cap did, saving his men behind enemy lines, left to be forgotten. It's a part of the story. And it is that exact juxtaposition of the ramifications of Sam doing something and Isaiah doing something. One was a white guy, one was not. And it is an uncomfortable reminder of it's being generous to say double standard that this country's history has when it comes to how it treats some of its people. And it is uncomfortable and it's distressing. And it's exactly what the story wanted us to feel, to understand where Isaiah was coming from and understand the context in which Sam himself now has to try to deal. So, yeah, so you're absolutely right about that, Z Benelli. You're absolutely right. All right, next up, Jen Mattel writes, after watching Bucky's arc in the series, do you think it's a strong possibility that he will show up in Black Panther 2? Yes. Yes. There is clearly a very strong connection between Bucky and Wakanda. We didn't get to see a lot of his time in Wakanda, but we know he spent a good amount of time there, and very significant things about his character happened in Wakanda. We got to see a little bit of a glimpse of that in episode 4, where they're the ones who fixed him, who cured him. And he is, of course, known as the White Wolf there. And his connection with Io and the Dora Milaje, and the fact that they're making these suits at his request. So I will go out on a limb and say, I don't have any insider information here, Jen, but I will go out on a limb and say, yes, I think we will see Bucky in Black Panther 2. I think we will. All right, DGMC writes, I like Sam hearing out Isaiah's justified bitterness, but still went off to do what he felt was right, which is what Bradley suggested he do. Veep! Yeah, I'll tell you what, I love that scene after all that, where Sam is talking to his sister, and like he's relaying how powerful Isaiah's story was, but the sister was just like, so you're just going to let him dictate what you need to do? And I love that he said, you know, without undermining all the heaviness and reality of what Isaiah told him, he said, I have to keep on fighting, because what was that sacrifice for? What were those fights for if I just give up now and don't carry on the fight? And I love that he said that. It makes some people I heard say it kind of undermines him carrying on, undermines what Isaiah was telling him. I think it just makes what Isaiah told him all the more relevant. And I like that scene with his sister where he explained that. So I thought that was really, really good, DG. All right, next up. Caillou writes, loving the return of suave Bucky from the 1940s. How awesome was his flirting with Sam's sister? Hilarious. I'm not going to lie, it's my favorite moment of the episode. Him going, hey, I'm Bucky. I'm Sarah. And then cutting to the wide shot of Sam just looking at them going, what the F is happening right now? It was like my favorite moment of the episode. Even more than the fight. Just that quick little moment, to me, Caillou, that was my favorite moment of the episode. All right, where are we at here now? Next up, we got Boris Nikovsky, who writes, jumping in quickly before work, loved the episode, hated the training montage. Boat part was okay. Isaiah's story made my mom cry. I mean, I loved the boat part. I love the whole thing about the boat part, where they're just fixing the boat together. Like, I remember my wife Ann saying, I could watch an entire series just about these two doing random things like fixing the boat together. I loved that. I thought the training was good. Again, I don't know why he's doing all the flippy flips, but whatever. I did think the training was good. And I thought the boat part was great. But yes, the Isaiah story part, if you actually listen, it's incredibly deep and powerful, and I thought it was great, Boris. All right, next up, Jeffrey Mason writes, I have a sneaking suspicion that we will see Steve Rogers and Isaiah Bradley meet and talk in the final episode. I have said from episode 1, I believe there is a chance. Unlikely, let me be clear, it's unlikely, but the possibility does exist. I think a legitimate possibility exists that we're going to see Steve Rogers, whether it's young or old, probably old man Steve, in this series. But John, Sam said he's gone. You notice they never said he's dead. They never once said Steve is dead. Nothing in the MCU has ever suggested Steve is dead, right? Like even in episode 1 where Torres is like, so is Captain America on the moon? It's like, no, he's not on the moon. Like no one is saying he's dead. They just say he's gone. I think he pops up. Let me rephrase that. I think there's a possibility he pops up. If I had to bet $5 on it, I would bet not, because I think it is unlikely, but I would not bet $5 against it either. So we'll see. We'll see if he does or not. All right, next up. Leroy Kelly writes, the commentary of the African-American experience in an MCU property is what I needed in my life. As an African-American, it made me so happy for Marvel to show respect to us. Well, I mean, here's the thing, Leroy. The even grander thing about it is that I don't think it's just paying respect to you. I think when you are telling stories about the American experience and you don't try to just gloss over the darker parts and you say, let's really look at what the American experience has been for different groups of people. It's not just respect to you, although it is, it's also respect to everybody. It's respect to everybody. To, people who were born in America, to, people like me who've come to, technically I'm an immigrant. I mean, I came to the United States. I don't think it really counts when you're from Canada, but still, I think it shows respect to everyone when you are willing to look at the reality of what the American experience has been for people other than the ones it's normally told from their point of view. I think it does a service to American history itself. I think it does a service to America itself when we say, let's look at the darker corners of our past, because in doing so, we make it more likely that we don't repeat those mistakes again. And I think it's a respect to everybody. So thank you so much for sharing your thoughts on that, Leroy. I appreciate that very much. All right, next up. Chronophobia. Would that be a fear of time? Chronophobia writes, enjoyed the episode, but was surprised about the slow pacing. I'm sure it will pay off, but felt they could have cut maybe 10 to 15 minutes. I wonder, with Zemo headed to the raft, if we'll see Thunderbolts. I always thought, no, we're not going to see Thunderbolts. This series has kind of changed my mind on that. It's like, yeah, they probably are. I didn't find the pacing slow at all. I wouldn't have cut anything out of this. The discussion with Elaine, him fixing the shield, the thing about the two building the boat, that's important to understand the growing chemistry and camaraderie between the two of them. The whole thing, the trial, the training montage, I honestly wouldn't have taken anything out of it. I thought the pacing was quite good. It wasn't a whole bunch of smash, bang, pow action going on, but that's not what dictates pace. I thought it was actually pretty good, but your experience with it was a little different than mine, and your opinion of it is no less valid than mine. All I can tell you is my experience was I thought the pacing was quite good. But for you, it didn't work out so well. So be it. Maybe we'll see how it goes in the next episode. Thanks for sharing your thoughts on that, Chronophobia. All right, next up. Cam K writes, it's obvious the throw that went into the tree was Bucky's throw. They even show Sam's throw not penetrating wood. Pads are fine for Sam and Walker. Maybe could make an argument for that. But if Sam's throws, here's the other thing about it. If Sam throws won't penetrate the tree, why are there pads on the trees? I mean, we saw him on the docks, right? Throwing it off of posts in the water. Boom, 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 boom. Why did he need the pads? Why do you need the pads? I thought it was pretty clear that first we see the shield go into the tree, and then we see pads on trees. But I don't know. Whichever way we want. Yeah, maybe you're right, Cam. Maybe you're right. But I still think logically it doesn't quite work. But I see what you're saying. All right. Benjamin GL writes, I wonder what Rhodey's thinking in all this. Yeah, he's probably sitting back going, man, I'm glad you guys dealing with this, not me. Rhodey ain't dumb. Rhodey ain't dumb. All right, next up. Benjamin writes, season 2, Uncle Sam and the White Wolf. Maybe. Listen, there are a lot of people. I don't think they're going to call Bucky Uncle Sam. Now, you can make an argument that they've been foreshadowing that with the kids constantly saying, Uncle Sam, Uncle Sam. I don't think they're going to do that. But if they did, I'd be down for season 2 being called Uncle Sam and the White Wolf. I'm totally down for that. All right. Brandon Banks writes, gotta love how Marvel is constant, probably meant constantly, bringing in new heroes, passing on mantles. It shows Marvel are not lost after Endgame, as so many fans feared. It's still going to be interesting to see how they build their meta-narrative. Because right now, what we've seen of them is them do some really good jobs telling smaller isolated stories, which they need to do. I've been wanting the MCU to do more of this with WandaVision, now Falcon and Winter Soldier. It's still going to be interesting to see how they build their big meta thing. Because honestly, if they try to do an Avengers next week, I don't know that it would appeal to nearly as many people as the previous iteration of Avengers did. Like, it's going to be interesting to see on a grander scale without your two marquee names, Captain America and Iron Man. Your two marquee names are no longer there. How well can you build that meta? And I still have questions about that. However, right now they're doing great telling these smaller, more isolated stories that I've been wanting them to do for a long time. They've been doing a great job with it. It's going to be interesting to see how they build to the larger stuff there, Brandon. All right, next up. Ben Rayner writes, just save one. Who said it best, Bruce or this show? Bruce. I got to tell you, one of my favorite parts of Justice League, which I understand why they didn't have it in the HBO Max Snyder Cut version of it, but honestly, one of my favorite lines in all of Justice League was when Flash, who has never really like done battle before, like says as they're in the sewers to Batman, it's like, I've never been in battle. Like I've never fought a bunch of alien parademons. I've never been in battle. And he was nervous, as he should. There was a verisimilitude with that. And Batman says to him, I love this line, save one person. That's all you got to do. Just save one. Because Batman knew that once he does, he'll know he can do this. But but he didn't put any pressure on Flash. He just said to him, save one person. It was really, really deep. So I'm going to lean with Bruce on that one, Ben. I'm going to lean with Bruce on that. All right, Sam Automatic writes, I get the impression that this show was written before Endgame. All non-specific top of Cap being gone, but not how. So no Steve Rogers in episode 6. Oh, no. Again, I think there is a very deliberate reason why they're using the terminology gone and not dead. They never said he's dead. And he isn't dead. Like, we know he's not dead. The last time we saw Endgame, which was just a few months before the events of Falcon and Winter Soldier, Captain America was very much alive. You know, no one ever said he was gone. Actually, Torres is wondering, is he on the moon? Is he like, I think if anything, that terminology is setting up a return. Not that he will. I'm just saying, if anything, I think it plays more into that, but we'll see where they go with that, Sam Automatic. Thanks for writing that in. All right, next up, Dark Jedi Knight writes, Steve rescued his friends from behind enemy lines against orders and was celebrated. Isaiah did the same thing and was locked up and erased from history for 30 years. And again, like we said a little bit earlier, Dark Jedi Knight, it is a stark, uncomfortable, but necessary thing to look at to understand the narrative and context of where not only Isaiah is coming from, but now Sam's understanding of the history and the legacy of what the super soldier serum is, of what all that, it's vital and important, and they've handled it great so far. All right, next up, Ismail Montoya writes, hey, John, if the producers don't have Bucky go back to the Japanese old man to tell him the truth about his son, I'll lose respect for the show. Well, let me say this first. Never be one of those guys, Ismail, never be one of those fans that says, unless the movie does what I want them to do, then I'm not going to like the show. Don't be one of those. Don't be one of those. That's bad fandom. That's toxic fandom, right? Now, don't get me wrong. There are many times in different shows and movies where I kind of hope to see this and it doesn't come, but never make it a prerequisite that something that you think they're building up to, whatever, has to happen, or else I lose respect for the show. If the show were to end tomorrow and we didn't get that scene, I'd feel a little disappointed, but I would think it was brilliant the way they're already all set it up. Making Bucky face the fact, we get to see Bucky that he hasn't had the courage yet to do what needs to be done. He's gotten close and then backed away. He's still living in fear, overwhelmed by guilt. A lot, even if they never show the scene with Yori, a lot of great narrative work has been done as a result of that situation that he has. Now, I think it goes without saying we're going to see that scene. We're going to see that scene. We've all known that since episode 1. We're going to see that scene. But if they don't, I'm not going to lose respect for the show because so much has already been told to us and we've learned so much about Bucky and his character because of that scenario, because of this situation he's in with Yori, that even if we don't get to see the resolution, I still think it was very beneficial and very worthwhile. But I would bet $5 that we're going to get that scene. But if they don't, I'm not going to lose respect for the show. I'm not going to. It still did great character building work. And if they decide that, look, we only got one episode left, we don't have enough time to go and do the Yori thing, I would think that's unfortunate, but I would get it and say, okay, they didn't show us that part. So it would be fine, but I will be surprised. I'll be completely surprised if they don't give it to us. I think they will. I think they've been building up to it since that first episode. All right, anyway, next up. Michael Bradley writes, hello, John. Love the opening fight. I did too. Walker held his own for a while. He did very well. Like, people are asking me, I had a bunch of people writing in saying, I think Walker's going to win that fight between him, Bucky, and Sam. I'm like, no, he cannot win that fight. I think 6 or 7 times out of 10, he loses to Bucky one-on-one. Bucky and Sam combined, I'm sure he'll do well, but he isn't going to win that fight. He can't win that fight. But he did hold his own very well, and the fight was great. It was totally fun to watch. All right. RF Cosplay writes, 1 or 2. Hey, John, big fan since the AMC days. Thank you so much, RF. Question. Do you think Bucky will become the character White Wolf since he was in Wakanda for 2 years? I don't see part 2, RF, unless it's... I don't see part 2. Okay, so let's just address it as a one-part question. Do I think we're going to see him become White Wolf? No. I think we'll see him called White Wolf. I think we will see him referred to as White Wolf from time to time, but I think we'll still just know him as Bucky. I mean, one of the things that I think they are doing is showing he's trying to separate himself from the Winter Soldier, right? Like he said in that one line, I'm still in here, but so is Winter Soldier. So he wants to get rid of Winter Soldier. So I think he's just generally going to go by Bucky, but I think we'll probably hear him referred to as White Wolf sometimes. But I don't know. Let's see where they go with that. If he does end up in Wakanda in season 2, he'll probably go by White Wolf. So I don't know. Maybe I changed my mind on that right now. Like, yeah, oh, you know what? Yes, we're going to see him known as White Wolf at some point. There, I just did a complete 180 in like 2 seconds, RF. All right, Boris writes, also, I lost my shit when Julie Louis-Dreyfus appeared. I never liked Seinfeld, but I love Veep and her in general. So happy to see her in the MCU. I love Seinfeld. I mean, I get it. She's in Veep, and a lot of people love Veep, but to me, she'll always be Elaine. But it was great to see her in there. There's something so spunky that she brings to the screen. You know, you get actors like The Rock who bring like this overwhelming charisma to the screen when he comes. There's a spunkiness about Julie Louis-Dreyfus, whether it's in Seinfeld or Veep or this, that the moment she walks on screen, she brings that energy, and I really, really liked it. All right, Carl Wolf writes, is Carly controlling people with their phone app? Did I miss something about her obtaining that? No, I think it's just, remember, go back to, I think it was episode 1, where Torres is also using the app, and I don't think she's controlling them. I think it just shows us that this movement, this Flag Smashers movement, has a lot of people that follow it, and they're very organized. They had all the people ready in that town square in the previous episode, and they had all the people ready to go, waiting in the park, like blending in, and then boom, the signal comes. All right, time to go to work. You know what I mean? But no, I don't think, I could be wrong about this, but I don't think the implied message here is that she's controlling them, like brainwashing them or anything like that. I think they're just legitimate followers of the cause. That's how I interpreted it at any rate. All right, Benjamin GL writes, first Julie Louis-Dreyfus, next we need Larry David. Let's get him to replace Stan Lee cameos. Larry David. I love Larry David. Curb Your Enthusiasm, of course, one of the creators of Seinfeld. Man, it would be fun to see him. It kind of reminded me of like when Gary Shandling, popped up in the MCU as that senator. Like one of the greatest Hail Hydra moments ever was Gary Shandling doing it. R.I.P. Gary Shandling. Maybe Larry David can be that new guy. All right, next up. A-Train A writes, Howard said the shield is a third of the weight of steel. Yeah, third of the weight still isn't great because that size shield, fully steel, even 1/3 of that should be pretty heavy for a little kid just to hold. Because when Bucky wakes up and the little kid is holding it, It's like, exactly how light is that? Okay, I'll go with the third. You're right. You said that, A-Train. All right, next up. Raymond Verratta writes, more on Julie Reese-Dreyfus's cameo. I wanted Eric Hale from Beep to show up as her assistant. Well, that's the thing. Then it becomes a gimmick, right? I've seen a lot of things like when somebody gets cast who was in something, then people go, oh, they should also get this other person from that same thing. And it's like, well, then it kind of becomes a gimmick. And I don't think they're going for that. So, yeah, I was cool. Like the jokes earlier about having Jerry Seinfeld or George Costanza or whatever. No, they should not do that because then it would just become too gimmicky. That doesn't mean you can't have like a little, at some point, a cool little Veep reference or a cool little Seinfeld reference, but bringing in other characters from it probably wouldn't work. All right, Benjamin GL writes, IRL, I get why, I get it, but why was the new Cap never mentioned in Spider-Man Far From Home? Just saying, why would he have been mentioned? Why would he have been mentioned? What came up in Spider-Man Far From Home that would have elicited a reference to, that there was a new Captain America for a beat? Because remember, by the time Spider-Man Far From Home comes along, it has been 4 or 5 months since John Walker was no longer the new Captain America. Right? Don't forget about that. So I'm sure there are many world events. How come there's no reference to Tom Brady and the New England Patriots? Or I should say now the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. How come there was no reference to that? Well, why would there have been? Why would there have been a reference to John Walker? Now, if John Walker did not have the title of Captain America taken away, then maybe in that one discussion with Nick Fury, Captain America could come up, but he was Captain America for a very, very short period of time, then gone. So I'm not really sure. You would have to make an argument for why he would have been mentioned, and I just don't think there's any compelling argument about why he would have come up. That's my take on it anyway, Benjamin. All right, Benjamin also writes, did you see that people on Fox News said that 84.1% of people canceled their Disney Plus subscriptions at the instant the police harassed Sam? No, I didn't. I can't believe that they said that. That's a ridiculous thing. Of course, that didn't happen. So I don't know where you're hearing that, but I doubt that happened. I doubt that happened. All right, Chris Hunt writes, no more speaking lines for you, GSP. Listen, George St. Pierre, my all-time favorite mixed martial artist, good Canadian kid. He's like one of the best guys ever to watch do it. One of the greatest one of the greatest hand-to-hand combat warriors in the history of the planet. A fantastic actor. He ain't there yet. He's better when he's speaking French, which I'm sure is true of any actor. When they get to speak in their native language, I'm sure it's a lot easier. When he was speaking French, I actually found him far more believable. So I don't know. We'll see where they go with that. All right. JK writes, the Wilson House and Dock may be my new favorite hero downtime location after Hawkeye Farm and Avengers Tower. I want to see heroes fishing now. I'll tell you what, JK, it's one of the reasons I said this a little earlier. I personally loved the whole boat montage thing, the hanging out, the downtime. You're right. Hawkeye's Farm, Avengers Tower. It's good in these sprawling cinematic universes to come back to those moments, right? It just makes everything feel like, oh yeah, we understand what it is they're fighting for a little bit more. I like that a lot. Good. Well said, JK. All right. Caillou writes, was I the only one who thought it was a lost opportunity for Bucky to do rule number 3 after capturing Zemo? I'll be honest with you, I can't remember the numbers of the rules. Like, don't hurt anybody, make amends, oh, is that what you're talking about? Maybe he didn't make amends with Zemo? Well, he didn't really do anything to wrong Zemo. He never wronged Zemo. But then again, maybe I'm forgetting the order of the rules, Caillou. All right, Russell Amador writes, Isaiah Bradley is... you know it was coming. Isaiah Bradley is Mephisto. There you go. Had to be said, and now we know it. It's clear, everybody. It's confirmed. Isaiah is Mephisto. All right, next up, we've got... It's All Groovy writes, I think Sam will be called Eagle. They kept showing that eagle snow globe on the boat. Ooh. I don't know if that's true. Like American Eagle or something. That's not bad. I don't dislike that theory. I don't know that they're gonna do that. It's all groovy, but I like the theory. I'm gonna remember that. Let's see if they actually do that, because I'll remember that. All right. Shadow Ninja writes, so they pretty much confirmed that Bucky knew that Steve was going to do at the end of Endgame. Well, I think what they made clear was that he explained to them what was going on. Because yeah, I mean, it seemed like at the end of Endgame, when they walked over where Steve was, Bucky didn't seem nearly as surprised as Sam did. So I don't know if they were confirming that he knew, or if they're confirming that Steve, after the fact, explained to them what it was he did, or whether that Bucky knew in advance. I'm going to have to go back and look at the episode again. I'm going to do that. I'm going to go back and watch that part of the episode again to see it. But it does kind of play into that when you think back to Endgame, when they finally see Steve sitting there. Bucky doesn't look at all shocked, right? And he doesn't rush over to Steve, and he just kind of looks at Sam. So you might be onto something there, Shadow Ninja. All right, next up, Efron Dagman writes, hey, John, sorry to go off topic, but last year, this time I was contemplating suicide, and the only thing that kept me going was the notification that the John Campea Show will go live in 30 minutes. Well, listen, man, we talk about it a lot on this show, and on the channel, but it's the power of movies and the movie fan community. And whatever it is that gives anybody, whether it's the thought of the next delicious bowl of ice cream, or watching the next great football game, or tuning in and watching a YouTube channel that creates an anchor and some joy for you, or talking about movies with fellow online film fans, whatever it is that helped you get through that time, I'm just super grateful that we got to be a part of that. And now that you're a part of that, creating that same environment for other people as well. So I don't know what caused you to be in that place that you were in your life, and I'm sure I'll never understand, but whatever was causing that, I'm glad that you were able to navigate your way through that, and incredibly honored that our community here was a part of that helped with that. So thank you for sharing your experience. Thank you for still being here. And again, I think that's just a testimony to the power of movies and stories and our shared love of those stories. And I'm glad that you were plugged into a community like that. So thanks for sharing your experience in that, Efron. I really appreciate that. And I'm glad you're still here. All right. Bobby Bro writes, best shot of the series, in my opinion, was the split-second close-up of Bucky and John contesting over the shield. That face-to-face, eye-to-eye, it was so intense. It was a great moment. Great moment, great image. I even liked it too, like when they had the thing when Sam was trying to pull the shield off and you still had, John and Bucky sitting there. It was an excellent moment. And understanding, again, this is why when it's soaked in narrative, the action is even better, because they were fighting over a legacy. Yes, the object was just a piece of metal, but that was a struggle. Taking that shield away from him wasn't just disarming him. It was wrestling the legacy of Steve Rogers away from John Walker. Like, there was narrative playing out, which made that action, Bobby Bro, even more important. And I think your observation is great on that one. All right, Tyler Hawkins writes, is it only me who was a little disappointed that Bucky didn't catch the shield during the fight like he did in Captain America Winter Soldier? I mean, didn't they already do that? Like, didn't he catch it once or twice in the fight in the earlier episode when they were battling the Flag Smashers on top of the truck that was moving? I thought they already kind of did that. So I wasn't disappointed. Then they showed him catching it while they were playing catch with Sam and stuff like that. But I think he caught it once or twice in that Flag Smashers fight on top of the truck. So I don't know if they needed to keep going back to that, but maybe I'm wrong. All right. Joe Bob James writes, I really hate the racial stuff in this episode, and Bucky apologizing for being white really pissed me off. Other than that, good episode. Okay. So here's what I would recommend, Joe Bob. What you need to do is find a clearing in your yard and then use a couple of sticks to prop up and hold like a rake standing up in your grass. Then what I want you to do is climb on top of the highest ladder that you have, then jump down with your ass cheeks spread wide onto that rake pole and go fuck yourself. Because first of all, I cannot believe the pansy, snowflake, fragile little delicate porcelain dolls that passes as masculinity these days. Listen, Bucky didn't apologize for being white, you fucking moron. You indescribably moronic imbecile. He didn't apologize for being white. Watch it again, you fucking idiot. He was apologizing for not being able to understand what it was that Sam was wrestling with, because throughout the show, he had given him a very hard time about it and never stopped to really think about really, truly the depth of the stuff that Sam was wrestling with. That's what he was apologizing for. He wasn't apologizing for being white, and the amount of pansy femi men out there who are like, oh no, it's something that threatens me, is unbelievably depressing. So number one, grow a pair of testicles. Number two, jump on that pole and thoroughly fuck yourself. So anyway, there's that. All right, next up. 12345 writes in, I love the way they explored a black man becoming Cap. I know anti-SJWs may complain, but I feel the way they did it was realistic and not too preachy. Hey, listen, all you have to do is look at American history to see that the experience Isaiah was describing is not terribly far off from what the experience, like go watch Red Tails and stuff like that. It's not terribly far off from the experience of what a lot of American soldiers experienced, you know? And so, yes, I like the way they've been incorporating that in. Okay, next up. Gabe Campbell writes, oh my God, this is a star-making performance from Wyatt Russell. I completely agree. This guy is crazy talented. That fight was an intense one. I think next week will be an incredible finale battle. Donnie Yasu sent in... that's a separate question. So I'll get to Danny Yasu in a second. Absolutely. Again, listen, when you do the narrative work, and that's what a lot of these movies sometimes fail to do. When you put in the narrative work, when you put in the character work, when you actually do create this arena that is steeped in story and character and motivations, then when you come up to a finale, like we're coming into episode 6, it makes it all the more rich. It makes it all the more rich, Gabe, so I completely agree with you on that. All right, next up, Donnie Yasu writes, and I accidentally we didn't get a separation in the questions, or I don't know why, but Donnie Yasu writes, I wasn't aware of how much I needed a boat fixing montage with 2 Avengers. Small moments like the dinner party in Age of Ultron and this are the best. I completely agree. No, again, not everybody appreciates it the way I kind of appreciate it, but going back to what I was saying earlier, it's the fact that, you know, it's these moments of normalcy. You have to pepper these in. And it creates an opportunity because honestly, more than them fighting side by side on top of trucks or fighting against John Walker, it was these moments that we felt a growing chemistry and bond between Sam and Bucky. Like that was the real bond developing moment, was this boat fixing montage. It wasn't the fights. It wasn't the battles. It was that moment that really delivered on that. And you got to change it up. You got to change levels once in a while. And I think you're absolutely right, Donnie. That's why I agree. Not everybody does. And I appreciate that. But that's why I'm completely with you on that. And why I thought that was great. All right. Flynn Games writes, Episode 4, Sam tells Walker that he used to counsel soldiers. Walker responds with, I know those soldiers. That's why this is a bad idea. Is there a storyline coming out about this? Probably not. I think it was simply like, you might be right about that. You could be right about that. To me, it was simply a moment showing, again, a juxtaposition of the worldviews and philosophies, right? And their different approaches to it and what part of that was significant. One part was significant to Sam, one part was significant to Walker. So I think it was really just for that. So no, I don't think we're going to see another story. I don't think they were setting up another storyline later, but you never know. I mean, the MCU does plant these seeds once in a while that they do come back and visit, but I thought it was just to kind of set up the difference of perception of the same events, that the way they just see the world is different. And I thought that was the purpose. But you could be right. You could be right. Let's see what they do. All right. Donnie Yasu writes, to modify a quote from Tywin in Game of Thrones, anyone who must say, I am Captain America is no Captain America. True. Yeah, I mean, it's somebody else actually wrote in about that, Donnie. Say just the fact that he had to say it kind of proves not. Like you never saw Steve Rogers having to say, "I am Captain America." You never heard him say that because he never needed to. He never needed to. The fact that he did have to say it kind of says a lot, you know? It kind of does. All right, next up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 writes, Bucky did not apologize for responding to the asshole who wrote in earlier. You're absolutely right. 1, 2, 3. All right. Ray Gunner Gaming writes, totally agree. That's why the prequel lightsaber fights are lackluster for me. OG lightsaber fights always win because of their emotional foundations. Again, my favorite lightsaber fight in all. Now, don't get me wrong. Even though I don't like the prequels, like the Yoda lightsaber fights, I really enjoy. The Duel of the Fates fight between Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan against Darth Maul in Phantom Menace, really, really good fight. But the greatest lightsaber fight isn't the fight that had the best fight choreography or cinematography. The greatest moment in all of Star Wars to me is the Emperor's throne room scene in Return of the Jedi and the fight between Luke and Vader. And it's exactly because of what you're saying, Ray Gunner. It's because it's all steeped in the character and narrative. Every bit of anguish, every aggressive move, everything about, juxtaposed or composed on top of the John Williams' score in that movie. As always, it is the greatest moment, one of my favorite moments in movie history, and it's absolutely my favorite in that. And it's the best lightsaber fight scene, even though from a fight choreography point of view, it's nowhere near as good as some of the other ones, but it's all because of story. So yes, excellent example of that, Ray. Well done. All right, Benjamin GL writes, Honestly, I hope Sharon gets retcon as Mystique because it would just help the MCU plot. No, it wouldn't. No, no, that doesn't help the MCU plot. I disagree with you on that. I don't think they need to be retconning characters to shoehorn in X-Men characters. Like I can't agree with you on that one. I've agreed with many things you said, Benjamin. I can't agree with you on that one. All right, CGM Show writes, the stuff with Isaiah kind of illustrates why the creators want Sam Wilson to become Captain America. It's almost symbolically representation of growth in America. For a black man to be Cap is meaningful. I mean, on that, I think your analogy there, I think your analysis on that is completely 100% on. I don't think he needs to call himself Captain America for that to be true. But like I said from the very beginning of the show, I do think it's where they're going. I do think that it's where they're going. And exactly what you just said. Episode 5 really did more for me. Like, here's been my position. They're going to make Sam Captain America, and I really don't think they should. Just in the same way, I don't think they should make Bucky Captain America. I don't think they should make John Walker Captain America. Nobody should be called Captain America because Captain America is Steve Rogers, period. That's my take. Episode 5 softened. It didn't change my position on that. I still don't want Sam to be Captain America. However, when they do inevitably make him Captain America and call him Captain America, which is what I think they're going to do, I'm not going to be as against it as I was because of episode 5. Episode 5, I will admit, softened me up to the idea a little bit. All right. Cyclops is better than Wolverine writes. I think everything he said to Sam was true. That Isaiah said to Sam, that Bucky said to Sam, that John Walker, I'm just not sure where you're at on that. Sorry about that, Cyclops. Too bad. Yeah, it's such a great username too. Anyway, where are we at now? We are at Mad1306 writes, I know I'm not alone in this, but I need a mini-series or whatever Marvel can give for a backstory showing Isaiah Bradley. I know Marvel isn't reactionary. No, I don't like this whole idea of we need a mini-series of Captain America going back to return the Infinity Stones and then ends with him coming back and seeing, no, we don't. We don't need that. We know exactly what happens. It's not like Titanic where we know that Titanic sinks. That's one thing we know. But like, we will know every single one of the stones gets returned. We know that Sam, there's nothing left to the imagination. We already know what happens. We don't need a series about that. Just like Isaiah just very effectively told us everything that happened. We don't need now a series showing us everything we already know that happened. So like I tend to very much be on the move the story forward. See, here's a great example of when you can do it. Rogue One. Yeah, we know they get the plans, but that's the only thing we know. We have literally never known anything about the origin of the plans, what went into the idea of getting those plans, the plans actually being delivered to the rebels, and what it took for all that. Like, there was nothing of that we knew. The only thing we ever knew was that somehow, some way, Princess Leia ends up with the plans to the Death Star. That's the only fact we knew. Everything else was unknown. That's not the case now with Isaiah Bradley or Steve Rogers going back to return the Infinity Stones. So I feel those were great moments in their respective stories, but I don't think we need a miniseries now that just basically walks through visually every single step of what we've already been told. So that's just my take. You guys know me though, right? Like I'm just I've got this natural resistance to let's tell stories about stories we already know. Like, you know what I mean? I've just got natural resistance to that. I say move stories forward, don't move backward into prequel stuff. But that's just me. I'm sure a lot of people would agree with you on that one, Mad. All right, next up. Rui writes, Sam counseling Bucky was such a fantastic moment. Powerful bonding moment of Sam using the skills for counseling vets to give Bucky some direction. See, here's the thing. One of the things I said at the beginning of Falcon and Winter Soldier, somebody brought up, you guys might remember, somebody wrote in this big, long thing about how kind of useless Bucky is. But I've always said that, no, look, the heart of a hero is more than just about what powers they have and blah, blah, blah. But I did say, I will agree that they're going to have to really come up with something that really distinguishes Sam apart from everybody else. Right? One of the key things in the MCU is that the characters are all very different from each other. There are very unique things about each character that makes them stand apart from all the other characters. What they did for that with Sam in this is his ability as a counselor, almost as a diplomat. And it hasn't just been a nice little thing to know about him. They've actually shown us that in action, that he was this close to being able to talk down Carly, that he's actually now very tangibly helped Bucky. Like, they have really leaned into that aspect of Sam as being the big thing that makes him stand apart from everybody else in the MCU. And I hope they never abandon that, because I have loved that and I've loved the way they've done it. And yeah, I just love the way it ends with Bucky going, good talk. Like, that was great. And it came at the tail end of the whole boat fixing montage. So it was all built in there, Rui. It was all built in there. All right, Jesse Torres writes, hey, John, I think that Walker will attempt a hero's death in the finale with Batroc's bomb and his reinforced helmet trick mentioned in episode 2. Thoughts? Well, listen, one of the things I said from the beginning with John Walker was that I wouldn't be surprised if John Walker has a hero's death. Now, they may have Walker survive past this and be an ongoing. I mean, they kind of hinted at that with Elaine popping up and talking to him. But still, I said from the beginning of the series, I think Walker's going to actually have a hero's death. He may not die a hero, but he will have a heroic death. You know, I think there may be a good chance here that despite the fact that he was so misguided and despite the fact that he was so damaged and all that kind of stuff, he may do what Steve Rogers did by throwing himself on the grenade. Whether it's a literal grenade or he'll do something to save other people by taking the brunt of a bomb or something like that. I still think that could be in the cards. I mean, or it could be they're setting up for him to be an ongoing character in the MCU, but I still think there's a chance we see him die the hero, or at least die heroically. I don't know if that's true, but we will find out. All right. Megan Drummond writes, I love the symbolism fueling Falcon's evolution. Red Wing destroyed, wings ripped off, Isaiah, etc. Strip him down before building him up to the new Cap. Again, I don't know if they're actually going to call him the new Cap per se, but yeah, there was something very symbolic about that. Red Wing was taken away from him earlier. The wings get ripped off him, all that kind of stuff. And now he's just Sam. He's Sam, who's now given a new gift by Bucky by the Wakandans through Bucky. And we're going to see the emergence of whether he's Uncle Sam, whether he's Eagle, whether he's Captain America, whatever they choose to call him. You're right, there was a tearing down. It's a really good observation, Megan. There was a tearing down, so now he can be renewed. Like a phoenix rising from the flames. We're going to see Sam Wilson rise again. All right, Tim Johnson writes, you think John helps Bucky and Sam in the final fight with the Flag Smashers? How helpful he is, I don't know. But again, I do think there's a solid chance he dies heroically. Like, we may have very different ideas about how to get the job done. But saving the world is what I'm all about. And if protecting the GRC from getting blown up, I need to throw myself on this, then that's what I'm going to do. So I don't know. We'll see. But I wouldn't be surprised in this world that is 50 Shades of Grey. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes in there and actually maybe helps them out. But then maybe they have to fight against it. I mean, I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see the way they navigate this, Tim. All right, Mike Thompson writes, you mentioned earlier that Steve likely let Sam train with the shield while on the run. Yes. But Steve gave the shield to Tony at the end of Civil War and didn't get it back until Endgame years later. That's true, too. That's a good That's a good point. That's a good point. Now, it doesn't mean that he couldn't have used something else, but that's a good observation. Well pointed out, Mike. Well pointed out. All right, Everett Brown writes, Val, don't call her Val, I think is the power broker. Just that small interaction with Walker was powerful and left an impression on me. I don't think she's power broker. I don't think she's power broker. I personally think it's pretty clear that she's not, but you never know, Everett. Episode 6 may come around and we may find out she is, but I think she is her own distinct character. I do not think she's power broker. I wouldn't bet $100 on that. You could be right, but right now I'll say my guess is that she's not. All right, Jovan White writes, Captain America didn't have his shield when they were on. We just kind of covered that same thing. Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't even think about that before. Frankie Gouge writes, Julie Louis-Dreyfus always old Christine to me, which she starred in the same show with Clark Gregg, Return of Son. I have no idea what we're writing there, Frankie. Sorry about that, dude. All right, Chad Bailey writes, Io and Wakandans didn't kill Zemo because T'Challa said he was done with vengeance. Dora Milaje follows their prince. Well, he's not prince, he's their king. All Zemo has to do is serve his time. No, I don't buy that. I don't buy that at all. Yeah. In that moment, he didn't want to kill Zemo out of vengeance. True. But the Dora Milaje's job, their reason for existing, is to protect the king. And their king got killed on their watch by Zemo. The only reason I think that Zemo is alive, and they're not taking him back to Wakanda, is because I think they made a deal with Bucky. Now, obviously they never say that explicitly in the show, and I could be 1,000% wrong about that. I'm not willing to die on that hill. I'm just saying. But I personally think, until they say otherwise in the show, I think specifically Bucky had to make a deal with them in return for turning him over to them. But we'll see. We'll see. All right. It's King Crispy writes, Hey, John, I know this is strictly Falcon and the Winter Soldier spoiler discussion, but I want to let you know Alfred Molina just leaked No Way to Home info on Variety. Yeah, we saw that. We'll discuss that on Monday. All right, Rui writes, they said Steve is gone. Are we supposed to believe he's dead? I don't think so. Or is this the complicated multiple universe string left over from Endgame? No. And Cap went back to the universe where he got to be with Peggy. Again, I think it is very key that they said gone, not dead. Gone could mean on the moon. Gone could just simply mean, I'm here to let you guys know that I'm okay, but this life is now behind me, and just let me live out the rest of my days. So, I mean, I don't know, but again, I think whether we find out in episode 6 or somewhere down the line, I think it is there's a reason why they very specifically never referenced him as being dead or passed away. They simply use the word gone. Steve's gone. Could have been slipped back into a time stream. Could it be gone to the moon? Could it be that he decided to move back to Wakanda? Could it be he did whatever? He's not there, but I still don't think he's dead. All right, next up. Dave Atkins writes, I really hope Bucky and Sarah hook up. I don't think they will, but that was again, Dave, I think that was my favorite moment in the entire episode. I really do think that might have been my absolute favorite moment in the entire episode. All right, Nellie Bell 32 writes, Wakanda gone. Wakanda gone, come through. Wakanda's going to come through with a suit. Vibranium thread like Black Panther suit. That's what I'm guessing. Maybe bulletproof, most likely. Sam with Wakandan suit and wings. Sam don't need the serum. I mean, again, yeah, that's why I said from the beginning, I don't want Sam to take the serum because you need to make him his own character. Not just let's make him a carbon copy of Steve Rogers. Let's give him the shield and let's give him the serum. And like, now he's just like Steve Rogers. Make him unique. And that's why I loved it when they said in the earlier series episode that Sam said he wouldn't take the serum. And I think that's a good move because I think the MCU has made it pretty clear only really one guy should have the serum, and that's Steve Rogers. He's one of the only guys who can actually handle it. But giving him a Wakandan design battle suit that is a mix between a Captain America aesthetic and a Falcon functionality will make him very formidable. It will make him very, very formidable, no doubt. All right, next up, Midtown Mike writes, I have a feeling it's a new Red Wing, not a suit. Oh, I disagree. I mean, a new kind of Red Wing might be in there, but it's a suit. It's totally a suit. I mean, if it turns out Midtown Mike that he just opens it up and it's a new Red Wing and it's not a suit, I will remember you said this, but I feel pretty damn confident that it's actually a suit. Maybe a Red Wing will be like a Red Wing replacement will be a part of that, but it's definitely going to be a suit. Definitely going to be a suit. All right. Lady MO5 writes, can we just shout out Mackey's acting this episode? He didn't have a big crying scene or speech. He carried everything on his face. No, listen, I'll tell you what. One of the things that has really impressed me about this entire series so far has been, and one of the things that has really carried it has been the performances. If you want to tell all that story and narrative and you want it to live within the 50 Shades of Grey, that means a lot more emphasis has to be put on the performances that make it all believable. And everything from Wyatt Russell, Sebastian Stan, Anthony Mackie, they have delivered. They have absolutely delivered. I mean, I'm not surprised about Anthony Mackie and Sebastian Stan. We already know these guys are both really top level actors. I mean, only having ever really seen Wyatt Russell in Overlord, which I did like him in. He has been the pleasant surprise because I was expecting it from Anthony Mackie because I've seen him in a lot of stuff. I was expecting this from Sebastian Stan. I wasn't expecting it from Wyatt Russell, and the performances have been absolutely crazy, crazy good. All right, Zach Roberts writes, Sam gets beaten by supers and humans too much. Him getting the serum at this point would be a positive for his character. Your thoughts? No, because then all that would be is making him a carbon copy of Steve Rogers. And then what is unique about him? How is he any different? The super soldier serum is something that he probably can't happen. Other than Steve Rogers, he's seen what the super soldier serum has done. It messed up Bucky's life. It turned Carly from an idealistic crusader trying to do something good into a mass murderer. He's seeing what it's doing, like making John Walker from a bit of a dick to now like completely pushing him over the edge. No. The key to bringing out the relevances of a character is not to make them as much like another character as possible, which I always feared is what they would do with Sam. Just give him the super soldier serum too. Now he's just like it. No. And he's not invincible. And that's why I love that scene when he's talking to his sister and he says, I know I can't win every fight and I'm cool with that. I love that line. That was so self-aware. I can't win every fight. He'll win a bunch like he did at the beginning of the series with the aerial fight and, foiling George St. Pierre's plot, even though George gets away. But he says he can't win every fight. But now you give him a Wakandan vibranium suit that is also enabled with the functionality of his Falcon suit. He becomes very, very formidable. So no, I don't think he should get the super soldier serum. I think you should do things that make him unique. And I think doing this is what's going to do that, Zach. I really do. I think it's going to be very exciting. All right. Edge of Reason writes, hey, John, I know a lot of people think Sharon is the power broker. A lot of people do. I still don't know. To me, it's still a coin flip. But I don't think she would have sent Batroc to help Carly if she was. Maybe a little double agent action going on. No, you're right. Like we said that earlier. The power broker wants to kill Carly. The power broker's not looking to help Carly. So her sending Batroc means she's not the power broker. But wait a minute. Why would she be selling Batroc in there when Batroc wants to kill Falcon? She likes Falcon. Why would she want Falcon to get killed? Maybe this is a double cross. Maybe she's sending in Batroc to actually take out Carly when she doesn't know it at the last minute. In that case, maybe she is the power broker. Again, it's a 50-50 thing. We'll have to see where they go with it. All right. Nellie Bell, 32 writes, love to know if Mackie had any say in the music choice of Hey, Pokey Way. Not many non-NOLA natives know about it. Mackie will rep NOLA if nothing else. If anything I'm sure about, I know he doesn't have any say in that. The actors do not get the power to pick soundtrack. So I'm going to guess no. I'm going to guess no on that. But I'm not even familiar with the music, so I don't know, which kind of proves your point, right? It kind of proves your point that I don't even know what the music is. But I highly, highly, highly doubt that they let the actors pick the music choices. Never know. Not impossible, but I highly doubt it. All right, Mad1306 writes, the way they made Vibranium in the MCU to be so strong, you think they will bring in Adamantium? Yes. Or change Wolverine's story and give him Vibranium instead. We had this discussion on the show before. Look, it is possible that they may say, look, we've already made a big deal that Vibranium is the strongest metal in the universe. With them bringing in X-Men and by extension Wolverine, do we say, oh my God, we've just discovered a new, even more rare, like hyper rare metal called Adamantium that's even stronger than Vibranium? Because remember, in the MCU, Vibranium, they remember Wakanda's built on a mountain of Vibranium. They have like Vibranium coming out of their ass. I go back and forth on this. I think they will create Adamantium. They'll say they discovered something, but there's not a mountain of it. They are going to say it's the rarest of the rare. It's super rare. That's what I think they're going to do. And Wolverine, I mean, maybe Wolverine himself is like 10% of all adamantium that's in the world. He might actually have 10% of all the adamantium in the world. So, I don't know, but I do think they're going to bring in adamantium. But I do go back and forth. I wouldn't be shocked if they change Wolverine to Vibranium instead of adamantium, again, because they have made a big deal to say it's the strongest metal in the universe. I still think they'll bring in adamantium, though. All right, Al Renshaw writes, hey, John, since Walker wasn't court-martialed, do you think the government will eventually restore his title and authority as Captain America? No, that ship has sailed. The moment he killed people in front of the world and all that kind of stuff, he embarrassed the country. No, they're never going to give him the title back. They'll never give him the title back. Dave Atkins writes, right, Gio, the jig's up. Ann Campea is the power broker. Well, in this relationship, she is. Power with her new almighty position at Apple, and we are broke due to all the super chats we send you. Do you guys get it? I'll let myself out. By the way, speaking of which, Dave, I should point out that on Tuesday, this coming Tuesday, which is the 20th, Tuesday, April the 20th, the John Campea Show will be late. Now, we normally do the John Campea Show at 10 a.m. Los Angeles time. However, Ann's new job with Apple is the launch events, the launch announcements. That's what her job is. And of course, the next big Apple launch event is Tuesday, April the 20th at 10 a.m. Los Angeles time. So since this is Ann's first big launch event, I am going to be a good supportive husband, and we're going to delay the John Campea Show until noon Los Angeles time. So on Tuesday, the John Campea Show will be at noon Los Angeles time because at 10 a.m., I'm going to be sitting with my wife in our living room watching the Apple launch event that she helped coordinate. So there's that. So thank you for giving me a little bit of a segue there, Dave, to bring that up. I appreciate that, man. All right. Richard Ganther writes, the Wakanda box is filled with Turkish delights and a note reading, looking strong, Sam. Bucky called in a favor for White Wolf suit and candy. Yeah. I mean, listen, we've all been focused on the suit Sam is getting. But when Bucky said to Io, I need a favor, who says he wasn't asking for a suit for himself too? What happens if when Bucky shows up, he's also got a suit? Why not? And a little bit of Turkish delight at the same time. That's a really good thing to bring up, Richard. We've been completely fixated on the suit that Sam's going to have. Maybe Bucky's getting a suit too. Maybe to go with that shiny vibranium arm of his. All right, Parker writes, Love Sam's evolution from being Falcon at the start of the episode to becoming Captain America by the end is awesome. What was your favorite moment in episode 5? Again, my favorite moment was simply the, hi, I'm Bucky. Hi, I'm Sarah. It's my favorite moment in the episode. One of my favorite moments of the entire series. My favorite moment of the series is still Bucky saying to Sam, if he was wrong about you, then that means he was wrong about me. That's still my favorite moment in the entire series. Still my favorite moment in the entire series. Again, I don't know that he's Captain America. I still believe they will call him Captain America, but I still think there's a chance he goes by a different name, but carries on the legacy of Captain America just under a different name. We'll find out soon. All right, Marvel fan writes, hey, John, did you hear the music from Civil War playing in the background when Walker, Sam, and Bucky were about to fight? I didn't know exactly where it's from, but you do recognize a lot of those MCU musical bits and scores in the right moment. So I didn't specifically think of, oh, that's the music from Civil War, but it doesn't surprise, but there's definitely music that's played throughout the series that I've recognized that at least have influences from previous musical hits from other things. And when you use the music the right way, and it makes you think, it makes you feel like you're in that universe, that's a key example of that, Marvel fan. So that's well pointed out. All right, next up, Anders F. writes, like that, they confirmed Bucky knew that Steve was planning prior to going back through time to put back the Infinity Stones. Again, I'm still not 100% convinced of that. Like I said earlier in this episode, I'm going to have to go back and look at that again, because I don't know if they were saying that he knew previously or if they explained it to them afterwards. But again, if he explained it to him previously, it would explain Bucky's reaction when he shows up at the end of Endgame. So again, I got to go back and look at that again, but you may be right about that, Anders. Next up, Dr. J writes, John, we desperately need a nightclub scene with Zemo doing his Baron dance and Madame Hydra during her Elaine dance. That's one of the greatest moments in Seinfeld history. It would create memes forever. Thanks for the premium coverage again. That would be something. Now, again, that would just make it a little too silly. But if you, listen, let me tell you this. If you have never seen Julie Louis-Dreyfus in Seinfeld, just look up Seinfeld Elaine dance scene. It's an entire episode is about it. And it is gold. And I can't believe no one else has said that, Dr. J. Now, what they really need to do is go back and give us a mix-up of Zemo and Lady Hydra doing their various dances. That I would watch the hell out of that all day. All day. All right. Marvel fan writes, it's also cool how Walker making his shield look like Iron Man. That's true. I didn't even think of that. Look like Iron Man in the first movie. And I think it symbolizes Captain America and Iron Man fighting. I think that's a stretch. That's a stretch. I don't think the idea there was to create, that's looking a few layers deep that isn't there. I think that is a stretch. But you're right. There was at least a little reminiscence there of him, in some hideaway somewhere. Although he's not on the run. He was not court-martialed. He's a free man. But still, he's in his little hideaway there, kind of hammering out, making his cosplay. That's basically what it is now. It's cosplay. But making his cosplay Captain America shield. You're right. It is a little bit reminiscent of that Iron Man scene. That's actually a good observation. All right, next up. Rui writes, it feels like the overall theme of this show is about what happens to people who get forgotten after the politics. The soldiers and the refugees and the people like Sharon who get banished from doing the right thing. I don't know if that's the overall theme, but it's definitely one of the themes. It's definitely one of the themes. It's like in the midst of the great, we pretend like the not so great isn't a part of it. The Captain America, but we don't want to look at what happened after that with Isaiah Bradley. The unsnapping, bringing everybody back, but the chaos and how people mismanage the return of all those people and what happens to the people who were still here and all those who were displaced and stuff like that. Yay, we see Sharon meet with Cap and get a kiss and give him his shield. But then her life was ruined after that. She had to go on the run. She hasn't been able to see or talk to her family. I don't think it's the overall theme, but I think I like the way you articulated this, Rui, that it is definitely one of the themes here. And I think we're going to see that theme probably made a little bit more prevalent in the final episode. So we'll go from there, but that's an excellent observation, man. Well done. All right, next up. Justin writes, Fury was the one to hire Batroc in Captain America Winter Soldier, said by Robert Redford and confirmed by Black Widow because Steve needed a way onto the boat. I don't know that that's true. I don't know that that's true. Actually, I'm pretty sure that's not true. I'll have to go back. I haven't thought about that in a while, but no, I don't believe that's the case, that Fury is I don't think that was the implied message there, that Fury is the one to hire Batroc in the first place. I don't think that's the case. Again, maybe I'm not remembering it correctly, but I don't think that's true, Justin. All right, next up. Danny32792 writes, could Countessa be a part of the Kratos Club? I mean, possibly. That means Gregory Stark, Tony's twin. Maybe Robert Downey Jr. can play Gregory Stark. Again, I think whenever you start looking into what's happened in the comics too much, you're usually going down the wrong path. I mean, it's possible, but again, remember, the stuff they do in the MCU is so wildly different from what actually happens in the comics that it's not likely. It doesn't mean they can't take thematic ideas from that and bring it over. We've seen them do that a lot, but I think that's going a little bit too far in it. But then again, you never know, man. This is Kevin Feige. Dangerous Lee writes, the Power Broker is a legacy character we haven't seen in a while. Terrence Howard as Rhodey 1.0. I don't know what you mean by that. I'm not quite sure what the comparison there is. Maybe I'm just overthinking it, but I'm not seeing what the meaning is. I'm sure probably everybody else understands totally what it is you're saying, though, Dangerous. All right, Greg Scott Bailey writes, Skip have already discussed, but did I hear right? They said Steve is gone. What does gone mean? Retired? Death? The moon with Diesel's Black Bolt? Again, I personally think that they use the terminology gone instead of dead, deceased, passed away. I think they very specifically use that terminology gone so that we in the audience remain a little bit unsure about what that means. But I do not believe he's dead. I think they would have said dead, ever since Steve passed or anything like that. They've never had that. If Steve had died, you'd think Sam and Bucky would have gotten together for some kind of private memorial or something like that, right? But that's not happened. Steve is still alive. I think they use gone as a word for very specifically as their term for that. All right, next up we've got Curtis, who writes, hey, John, when Malcolm Spellman teased we would see a super grounded character introduced that he wanted to team up with Thor, was that supposed to be the Julia Louis-Dreyfus Contessa? I'm confused on that point. This is a great example of when we fans read way too much into some offhanded comment that a writer or a producer or a director makes, right? So basically, yeah, we've got this episode 5 characters like super grounded, and man, I would love to see them team up with like a world shaker like Thor or something like that, right? It could just be him like processing that in his head at the same time. But what happens is we jump on that. And I mean, when I say we, I mean all of us. I mean, I do this too. And we try to build some kind of massive theory around that kind of stuff, when really we need to take all that kind of stuff with a grain of salt. So I don't think he was referring to Countessa. I don't even know if he was remembering the order of the shows. Honestly, I don't know what he was thinking, but I just think we as fans, when we hear stuff like that, we got to take it with a massive grain of salt and maybe not even worry about it too much or think about it too much. Cause maybe it could mean something more on like a 6th or 7th level of depth that he's thinking about that isn't the way we would think about it. So again, I never pay too much attention to those things, at least not. Sometimes they do catch our attention, but try not to build too much of a huge theory around things that may or may not actually mean anything to us the way it means it to him. So I wouldn't worry about it, Curtis. All right, next up, J Jav Dav writes, Carly is my only negative in this show. Really? I think she's great. Doesn't seem intimidating at all, even with the serum. Feels like a child playing a villain. I don't buy that she can be the leader of any organization. Then I think you lack vision. If you don't think that her idealism is what draw people to her, it's her idealism. And when you see how loyal that her immediate circle of flag smashers are to her, you understand how she could do that. You don't have to be The Rock. You don't have to be Dwayne The Rock Johnson in order. I mean, listen, Hitler comparisons are always the worst ones to make. But in this situation, think about it. when you looked at Adolf Hitler, this twerpy little ridiculous looking dude who just yelled and screamed a lot, he rallied a country. I mean, so somebody with real conviction and passion that people are drawn to, I think she has worked incredibly well. I'll be honest with you. I think she has worked incredibly well. And they didn't go with a Hollywood stereotype sort of. It's not about her being intimidating. It's her being inspiring. Like, she has inspired people. She hasn't intimidated people. She's not your stereotypical mustache twirling villain. Now, that doesn't mean that the character has to work for you. I'm sure there are many people who the John Walker character has not worked for them, or that the Bucky character doesn't work for them, or that the Sam character doesn't work for them, or that the Carly character doesn't work for you. That's totally cool. But I think you need to think beyond the stereotypical realms of, like, the villain. Oh, she's not intimidating at all. Well, that's not necessarily what would rally people to her, or what would make people buy into, her vision of a better world. That's what she has been selling. And I think it's very believable that with that as their cause, especially people who find themselves, like people who were amongst the 3 billion that were still here on Earth after the snap, like, would find her cause very appealing. So anyway, that's just my take on that, J-Jav. But, you can see the character differently. I totally respect that. It's all subjective. But I think the believability level that somebody with vision who articulates the vision can rally a lot of people. And I think you can't overlook that. Anyway, that's just kind of my take on it at any rate. Thanks for sharing your thoughts on it, man. All right, XLMLG writes, Falcon's new suit got leaked with a toy. It's Captain America themed. You also make me laugh, especially with people rating movies 0 to 10 rant you had. Yeah, again, I wouldn't read too much into leaked toys. I mean, we've seen many, many times that this was leaked in a toy, and then that never actually ended up being a thing. Sometimes it does. So maybe yes, maybe no. But again, I wouldn't read too much into that too much. Let's just wait and see. Maybe it'll be very similar. Maybe it won't. But I wouldn't put all your eggs in the leaked toy basket, because we've seen a number of times that leaked toys didn't actually reflect something that was going on in it. I still remember when a Justice League toy pack got released, and a part of that Justice League toy pack, there was this battle armored Lex Luthor battle armor thing, right? It's like, whoa, we're going to get Lex Luthor in his battle armor, blah, blah, and obviously that never happened, right? So, but that's just one example. That's just an example. There have been other things like that, but sometimes it does. So let's see what happens next. All right, next up. Bullet 1510 writes, hopefully if Wanda gives him wings, if Wakanda, not Wandia, if Wakanda gives him wings, they haven't included a kill switch to make them fall off mid-flight like they did with Bucky's arm. I wouldn't be surprised if they did. Like, okay, we'll give you outsider, a powerful thing, but we're always going to make sure that you can't use that thing against us. I mean, we may like you and we may trust you, but we're also going to give ourselves a backdoor way of interfering and dealing with you in case you ever decide to try to use that technology against us, right? So I wouldn't be surprised at all if we find out they build something like that into it. Like, not at all. All right. Loose Network Hamster. I love that username, writes, so John can't be Captain America. So now he's trying to be phony Spark and make his own shield and using the Medal of Honor as his arc reactor. Oh, you probably meant Stark. His own arc reactor. Again, I like the way somebody else put it before Loose Network. Somebody else says, so he's not Captain America anymore, so now he's cosplaying as Captain America. And I think we're going to find out, you know what I think we're going to get in episode 6? There's going to be a moment that he uses a shield that it does not work the way it's supposed to work, because it's not vibranium, obviously, right? But yes, he's basically now Loose Network. He's cosplaying Captain America at this point. And I do think we'll hear the moniker U.S. agent. I think we'll hear that in episode 6. I mean, I don't know that for sure. I'm just guessing, obviously, but I think we will. All right. Ifran Dagman writes, Thank you, John Campea Show crew and all the lovely people that tune in. Well, no problem. Thanks for being a part of it, Efron. I appreciate you being here, man. And it is a great community to be a part of. And we're glad that you're a part of it, my friend. Thanks for sharing that. All right, next up. Abraham Ruiz writes, looks like Sergeant Colonialism is going DIY with his own shield. Also, as good as this show is, I feel like it's a better binge than a week-to-week episode. I disagree. I like the week-to-week episodeness of it. Again, it's clearly better for the show because it builds momentum. You know, Netflix drops a season of Stranger Things and everybody's talking about Stranger Things for a week and then nobody's talking about it anymore. It's done. And everybody's at different stages. Like this week-to-week thing, it's so good for building the fan base, for building excitement. It gives us opportunities every week to really soak in what happened, talk, theorize with each other about it. It's just a better way to go. Now, and I say that as a binger. Believe me, I am a binger. I like finding a show and then ripping through all the episodes. I totally do. But I think from a fan perspective, this is the way to go. And I think it's working the way it is. But I see there's good arguments to make both ways on that, Abraham. I think there's arguments to be made both ways on it. All right, Jason A. writes, I loved how Bucky dropping the shield echoed Steve's dropping it at the end of Civil War, like, here, take it, it's yours now. Yeah, I mean, obviously, the motivation behind the drop was very different. I saw so much of Bucky's, because we know how much Bucky's been giving Sam a hard time about the fact that he gave up the shield. Like, he really holds Sam responsible for a lot of what's happening. But it was very much we were talking earlier, don't lose it again. And well, here we go. We were in this mess and I'm all bloodied up and you're all wrecked up because you gave this thing away. Like there was a lot being said without any words being spoken. A little reminiscent of the Steve one. Yeah, but obviously very different motivations behind them at the same time. All right. And our last question, then we are all caught up, guys. Our last one gets sent in to us by Ryan Gerger, who writes, my name sounds like a bear Gerger. I'm not sure what that means. That fight scene from the beginning backdrops the fight scene from Civil War. It was epic. I don't know if it backdrops that, but it was such a great scene. And while I knew that scene was coming this episode, I got to admit, I was a little bit surprised that the episode starts with that big action scene. That's very different for shows like this to do, but they have not shied away from that. Like episode 1, big bang aerial combat scene happens, right? Like this episode, just right out of the gate, this huge iconic fight between idealisms of Bucky and Sam versus John Walker. I mean, I thought that was great. It did catch me by surprise, and I love that they do that. All right, guys. That will then do it. Now, we are all now wrapped up on our Falcon and Winter Soldier Episode 5 spoiler discussion. This is, of course, Part 2, which took us through to the end of it. I got to tell you, I have gone from after the first 3 episodes of enjoying this show but not loving it. The final 2 episodes have got me completely on board. I'm in love with the show right now. Cannot wait for Episode 6. Don't forget, guys, on Thursday at 4 p.m. Los Angeles time, we're going to do our pregame show for the Falcon and Winter Soldier finale. And then, of course, on Friday at 4 p.m., we will do our open spoiler discussion, our final one for Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Hope you guys will join us for that. And again, don't forget, tomorrow, Monday, the John Campea Show is on its regular time at 10 a.m. Pacific time. On Tuesday, it's going to be 12 p.m., a different starting time on Tuesday because, of course, Anne has her launch event for Apple. And I'm going to be tuning in to watching that to support my wife. So we're going to be doing that day's show at 12 p.m. and then back to our regular 10 a.m. starting time for Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Okay, guys, that will do it for this episode. Thanks a lot for being here. Remember to do the 4 main things, please. Stay smart, stay safe, take care of yourselves, and please take care of the people around you. That'll do it for me for now, guys. My name's John Campea, and until next time, my friends, bye-bye.